Good evening, Vancouver. Welcome back to Canucks After Dark. It is Monday. We're back on a Monday, March 17th, St. Patrick's Day. And as always, joined by my co-host, Canuck Clay. How are we doing on this Monday night?
Parker, I'm doing great. My wife is away for 3 weeks. That's not why I'm doing great, actually. That's probably... So if I'm looking disheveled or unhealthy over the next 3 weeks, please send help. But truly... Isn't it funny? Since our last show, which was the third of 3 straight Tuesdays, the Canucks actually went 2-1. But why do I feel such a bitter taste in my mouth, Parker? Help me explain that.
Yeah, and the thing is, I'm in a similar boat because you look at the game that they won, right? That game against the Flames was the big one, right? That was the one to give us a little bit of separation or at least get ourselves back in a playoff spot. And they won that game, and it was actually a fantastic third period that won in that game.
Yeah.
But the Flames still did get a point, and the Canucks were just hanging on by a thread. And then they had a great game against Chicago, as they should.
Yeah.
And then yesterday's game, which admittedly I only really saw bits and pieces of, but it really never felt like they were in it. It didn't feel like they were putting on, like, it didn't feel like a team hungry for a playoff spot. And now they're at risk of being caught by Utah, who is now just 2 points back. Meanwhile, St. Louis is tied with the Canucks in points with one more game played. And suddenly you look at things and there's 5 teams competing for one playoff spot. And the math gets a little bit tricky.
Yes. Everything you said is true. And it's funny because we shouldn't expect this, but we can't do a perfect comparison because you're right. All 4 teams, Vancouver, Calgary, Utah, St. Louis, they've all played different games. They're all in different parts. It's not like they've all played 70 games or 68 games. So you do have to kind of extrapolate a little bit. So by points percentage, the Canucks are actually in the best spot of the 4 teams by points percentage because no one can pass them if they win out, which is weird. But as you put in the thumbnail, they have a less than 50% chance in some models of making the playoffs. So I know we're going to talk about strength of schedule and all those road trips, home stands, all that kind of stuff. But buckle up, man. It's going to be a fun last month of the season.
Well, I hope it's a fun last month of the season, frankly. I hope we don't. I hope this next 4 games doesn't end it because with 15 games to go and the season wrapping up on April 16th, right? Like you said, 1 month away. Just over 4 weeks this week. And, maybe this week's probably the biggest, right? Because you've got a lot of good hockey teams, right? You've got the number 1 team in the NHL in the Winnipeg Jets. You've got the team that we are one of the teams we're competing with for that playoff spot in St. Louis on the road. You've got a game against the New York Rangers, a team who is hanging on by a thread to a playoff spot. And then you've got the Devils who are in a playoff spot. So it's a really, really hard stretch. It's 1 game at home and then 3 on the road, not to mention the Islanders in Columbus and Winnipeg after. It's a 6-game road trip coming up.
Yeah.
And the odds behind that, I mean, Lankinen's road numbers are good. Maybe that helps. But, you just look at the battle that the Canucks are going to have to go through. Because you can look at these other teams and say, hey, maybe they don't have the easiest schedule. And I haven't really looked at St. Louis or Utah or Calgary's schedule. But guess what? Only one of those teams needs to do better than the Canucks do. Right.
Yep.
And so we're at the point with the Canucks where, going 3-3 on this 6-game road trip probably isn't going to cut it. Right. Because then you probably need to win like 8 out of the last or 7 out of the last 9 or something along those lines to even get in. And that's going to be really tough when you have Vegas, Dallas, Colorado, Minnesota as a 4-game stretch, and then the Golden Knights in the last game of the season. The Canucks have a very tough schedule the rest of the way in, and they need to be almost perfect.
Okay, you want to hear something sad? I'll just quickly rattle off the opponents for St. Louis. Okay, this is the one I did look at because I'd heard. You ready? Here we go. Nashville, Vancouver, Chicago, Nashville, Montreal, Nashville. So that's 3 in a week. Colorado. And then listen to how they end off. Detroit, Pittsburgh, Colorado, Winnipeg, Edmonton. So there's a tough stretch, Colorado. And then Seattle.
The very end of the season.
Seattle, Utah. So I don't like you could argue, I think we could say objectively that is a much easier schedule than the Canucks have, I think.
Yeah, it is. And look, last time we talked, the Blues had, they were doing okay, but they
Yep.
won 2 of their 3 games this week. They lost to Pittsburgh, which is a blow to them, but they beat the Wild 5-1. They beat the Ducks 7-2, right? So they're
Hmm.
feeling themselves. And like you said, they got the Predators tomorrow as a bit of a tune-up game before Vancouver comes to town. They have to go on the road to Nashville, not as far of a flight as the Canucks have to get to St. Louis. And a bunch of their games the rest of the way out are at home, right? And the ones that are on the road aren't that far away. Um,
Oh,
and that's not to mention Calgary, who has really fallen apart over the last week.
good.
They've lost their last 3. They lost 6-2 to the Leafs today, 4-2 to the Avs on Friday, and they lost to us on last Wednesday in that shootout. And their schedule is fairly similar to ours. They get the Sharks a couple times, though. They do get the Ducks in there. But this week for them, they're sort of on the same road trip. They've got the Rangers, the Devils, and the Islanders coming up after being in Toronto tonight, and it's a back-to-back for them because they play the Rangers tomorrow. So that's a game that we're cheering for the Rangers. But yeah, like we said, like I said, there's only one of those 3 teams needs to outperform the Canucks over the next week, and things can start looking really bleak.
And then just to finish off, we're going to talk about Vancouver, and you kind of already did. We talked about Calgary, we talked about St. Louis. Just to finish off the quartet, here's Utah. So there's this weird, man. They go like tough, easy, tough. So Edmonton, Buffalo, Tampa, Detroit, Tampa, Florida, and then Chicago. So that's March. And then their April, Calgary, LA, Winnipeg, Seattle, Nashville, Dallas, Nashville, St. Louis. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like they all have like sort of middle of the pack schedules. I mean, okay, St. Louis has a pretty easy schedule. I think Utah
Yes.
and Calgary have pretty middle of the pack schedules, and I think the Canucks have a hard schedule. And
Right.
I'm sure you can look up strength of schedule the rest of the way and actually
Yeah.
like look at the numbers, but I haven't found that. But still, like it's tough, right? And that's why even I think Money Puck has the Canucks after Calgary's loss tonight. I think we were at like 20-25, and now we're at 29 and a half. So that's where I got the 30 from.
Okay.
I believe the Athletics a little nicer to us, but even then, like, if it was us or Calgary, like we had hoped it would be, right?
Yep.
That's sort of how we saw it over the last couple of weeks. If it was us or Calgary, I would like our chances because Calgary's really stumbling over the last week or so, and I think the Canucks have a better team on paper.
Mm-hmm.
But St. Louis and Utah are playing good hockey right now, right? They're each, St. Louis has won 7 of the last 10. Utah's won 6 of their last 10, including a game over the Canucks. And they're in the mix, and it really is gonna, a 2-point lead is nothing when there's still 15 games to go.
It's yeah. Do you have the Money Puck numbers in front of you or no more?
I can have them in 2 seconds.
Yeah, I'm just really curious if they only give us like 29-30%, what do they give the other 3, Calgary, Utah, and St. Louis?
Yeah,
I'm really
I'll give you that in
curious.
2 seconds here. So the Canucks
Thanks.
are at, and let me make sure this was updated. Yeah, it was updated an hour ago. So this is
Great.
with the Calgary game. Canucks are at 29.5%. Yeah, and you can tell these are all for the exact same playoff spot. Canucks are 29.5%. St. Louis, 36.5%. Utah is at a flat 25. Calgary's at 18.5.
Wow.
So those 4 add up to about 100. There's a little bit of play there because Minnesota's only at 92%, which I'm looking at like they'd have to really collapse, right? That's why it's 92%. So like there's a couple percentage points being tossed to Calgary and to us and to St. Louis and to Utah in the weird case that they fall out and 2 teams get hot.
Right.
But for the most part, yeah, it's for a 4-team race. It's as close as you get to a coin flip. But the problem is it's a coin with 4 sides.
That's a good analogy. And I'll make it even simpler. We can go back to hating Jordan Binnington now, right? After the 4 Nations.
Yes. Yep. Never liked that guy except for 2 really good weeks.
All right. We all hate him.
And I'll like him again next year, maybe.
Okay. So I guess, what do we got? 3 games. Then we got Filip Chytil, and then I guess whatever else we want to talk about.
Yeah, and I think these 3 games, looking at what happened, I think we can take a little bit of time on them because that Flames game felt like a playoff game.
Yes.
That was awesome. I didn't love that it wasn't like it was a national game, so it was Calgary's broadcasting team. We didn't get the
Yeah.
Shorthouse call.
Parker, do they have a mandate that they have to take a 5-second pause between each sentence? Did you notice that? There were so
Yeah,
many, like, they gain the zone. He takes a shot. Like, it was so
yeah.
weird.
It was weird too because I mean John Abbott used to do the Canucks games
Yes.
on 1040, right, for
Yeah.
a short stint, and I thought he was good on the radio. But yeah, and on it wasn't. I didn't enjoy it a ton, but it makes you realize how good we have it most of the time.
Good point.
But yeah, this game was a fantastic game. It felt like a playoff game. It was back and forth. The Canucks for the first time all season won a hockey game when trailing going into the third period,
Amazing.
which is crazy. Because how many games have we lost with a lead going into the third period?
Yes.
It's absurd. But no, this was a great hockey game. You get a Hughes Suter goal to open it up off of sort of a block that comes back to him, and then it goes off of a skate and in. It looked like he sniped it, but he didn't. And then you had Kadri, who, if I remember correctly, just ripped up the middle of the ice, and
It was a nice
the
goal.
two Pedersons just sort of let him go through.
Yeah, I hate Kadri. Sorry, I don't like Kadri, but I give him props. That was a beautiful goal, and he not only did he Anderson found it with a beautiful pass, but he then deked out Lankinen out of his shorts, kind of thing. So it was a good goal.
Yeah. Second period, and this is I remember the night before we were doing a show, and I just offhanded said, I was like, yeah, like Quinn Hughes isn't playing, right? Because we hadn't heard anything, and I was just sort of the assumption that no news was not good news. But he did play, and it's crazy, man, the impact that this guy has immediately. Because we get him on the power play. He leads the unit. Gets the puck at the top of the zone, walks the line a little bit, gets the puck back. It's a perfectly placed shot. DeBrusk tips it down. It's awesome. I mean, DeBrusk has 23 goals this year. He should get around 30 by the time's all said and done, maybe 27, 28, somewhere in there.
Sure. Yeah.
Which, it's a fine season. He's been a little less visible lately, I think.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
overall, for what is it, $5.5 million? I don't think he's been the real issue this year.
No, and we knew, and we talked about it, and the reputation was a bit of a streaky player. So that's why it kind of goes almost invisible, goes quiet for a while. And then you're right, Parker. You look at his goal total and say, whoa, that's actually pretty good.
Yeah. And then then we allow a shorthanded goal 3.5 minutes later. It's Huberdeau. This was a 2-on-1. Hughes got, failed the zone entry, came back the other way, and they scored. And that's in a game that feels like a playoff game. That's one that felt like a backbreaker at the time, right? They had just gotten this lead that they had been working so hard for. And then they allow another one off of just a Huberdeau shot from the top of the circle. It's a good goal, but with 4 minutes to go in the second period and knowing that this team has not come back in a third period this year, I was not super optimistic going into the third.
And I think Rick Tocchet even joked about it in the like anyone, it's human nature. He's in really good moods after the Canucks win, and he's in not so good moods after the Canucks lose, kind of saying, why don't they know how to play my system? But we'll get to that in a second. But yeah, he joked after, I know we'll talk about the goal, but he joked about this is the first game. So out of maybe 30 attempts where they've been behind and they finally do it. So he was kind of joking that maybe they can stop asking him about it now.
I want to say it's been 23. I think it was 19-4. They said.
That's bad.
Something.
Okay, that's fair.
It's not good.
Fair.
Yeah, the O hurts.
Yeah.
Third period of this game, the Vancouver Canucks, who don't know how to shoot seemingly anymore, the lowest shots in the league per game, I think, since January 1st, if I remember correctly, maybe 31st in the league. And sure, they don't allow a ton, but even after this game, through 2 periods, shots were 19-12 in favor of Calgary. And all credit to the Canucks because they put 17 pucks on net in the third period. And if you look at natural stat trick and you look at like all the stats in this one, just let's start with high danger chances. First period, 4-2 Flames. Second period, 6-3 Flames. Third period, 13-2 Vancouver. Scoring chances, 7-7, 8-4, 15-2 in the third. And then overtime, 7-1, by the way.
Oh,
so
best
the
overtime.
Canucks, the Canucks really took, they played a pretty not relaxed game, but like not super aggressive game for the first 40, at least with a scoring chance perspective. But the third period, they were fantastic. They dominated the entire period. They got a bunch of chances, and it finally worked because Pettersson just good work on the wall down low, gets it back to Mancini, and just gets to the open ice, right? That there's only a couple places for a rebound to go. If a rebound comes through there, everyone on Calgary has collapsed towards the puck, and Pettersson's waiting. That would have been his third goal in 4 games, I want to say, at this time, and a huge one.
Yeah, and that's Pettersson did what Rick Tocchet is always imploring him and other forwards to do, and that's to move his feet, right? Not be stationary and get to the net. And it was beautiful. He controlled puck down the corner, exactly what you said. Credit to Mancini for giving that shot, and then credit to PD to going to the net. Mancini, by the way, I'll talk about him more when we talk about the Chicago game, but he's good. He's impressed me a lot, actually. But anyways, PD, I'm going to the net. Joked around afterwards, saying he almost he put it too close to the post for his liking, but who cares? And there's other. By the way, when you talk about all those stats of how Vancouver dominated that third period, give credit where it's due. That means that Wolf played excellent in net. He's good. That guy's good.
He's going to be a problem for a while.
Yeah.
Like this Calgary team, for how much they're sort of aging out and how it felt like they're supposed to be in this rebuild, and they're sort of clinging on, right? He's a heck of a player to sort of build around from the backup. He's going to be excellent. I genuinely think he should really be in the Calder conversation. I know Celebrini's got like 50 points or whatever he might have. But like in a year where average NHL goaltending is like 900, the average save percentage this year, for a rookie to be putting up a 912 on frankly a team that's not fantastic, and without him would be, I mean, they'd be competing with Seattle, right? Like they'd probably have 10 fewer points, maybe less, and they'd be a lottery team. But he has been a huge, I genuinely, if they find a way into the playoffs, I think he should win the Calder.
Yeah, well, that's well said. It's funny. It came out of nowhere, right? Everyone was talking about Celebrini. Then there's some love for Michkov, at least at the start of the season when Philly was good. There's like 3. There's one that wasn't Wolf. There's a third guy that was talking about. Not Stankoven. I'll have to think about it. Yeah, but you're right. He's going to be a problem. That's a good way of putting it, because we're going to see this guy 3 or 4 times a season, if not in the playoffs eventually as well.
Yeah, it might have been Hudson you were thinking about.
Perhaps, yeah, he's good. Yeah, all these young defensemen,
yeah. So this overtime was, if I was a Calgary Flames fan, this would have been the most infuriating overtime ever.
Was it the best?
It was. I mean, look, the NHL needs to put in some rules or something. But as a fan of the team that played this overtime this way, it was executed to perfection.
Yeah.
Like genuinely perfect. Now, only 2 shots on goal isn't great, but giving up 0 shots in overtime is great. And probably having maybe 4 minutes of puck possession in a 5-minute overtime, and just every single time gaining the line a little bit. If it's not perfect, just come back out. There's no pressure. Just keep doing that. And especially when you can have Quinn Hughes play, I'm assuming 3 minutes of the overtime. It felt like, where literally every time he'd come out and he'd just try to sneak behind, like he'd do like a little look this way and just like try to gun behind the Calgary defense. And it worked a couple of times. It was perfectly played. They almost scored. Dustin Wolf had a big save. But man, like it was a textbook overtime with the way that overtime currently works.
Yeah, and they did. You're exactly right. They did everything that you and I have complained about on the show that when another team does it to the Canucks, right? It's so, they should put an over back rule like basketball where you can't go past center. Once you're back. Yeah. But then isn't it amazing when the Canucks do it? It's the best thing ever.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. It's one of those things where it's like, it's the way it's written up. That's the way to do it. I think as a neutral observer, it's kind of annoying.
Yeah.
But in this case, when the Canucks needed that extra point, I loved it.
Yeah. No, in all seriousness, objectively, I keep saying that word today, but hard to be objective when you care so much about a team and you want them so badly to make the playoffs. But yeah, no, they got to do something. Justin kind of just said it right in the chat as we were talking about it too, that they need to make an over and back rule. Once you have possession and cross the offensive blue line, you can't skate back. Yeah, there's ways you can do it. You could make it really tough and you can't exit the zone, but that's what offside's for. But so you have to do the middle. Yeah.
Maybe do floating blue line. So like you can. They're not going to do that. That would be crazy. But like the blue line becomes the red line, but you can't go back outside of that. That's more of a 3. That's like a 3-on-3 rule for like beer league.
Yeah. The GMs are meeting right now, Parker. Send your submission in. Like the GMs are meeting.
I don't think they're going to change where the blue line is. So we go to a shootout because the Canucks couldn't score, it was frustrating, but it was one of those things where like, hey, you did the best you could. Lankinen stops Frost to start it off, and then the Canucks put Pettersson out first, which I love this move to just, he's been feeling it a little bit lately. It's like, hey, just go out there first, see if you can score. Just ice cold. Just skates in, couple little stick handles, and just quick release 5-hole while Wolf has a stick off the ice. Like Wolf didn't even move. It was just quick. It was seamless. It was perfect. And it was just like it had that little bit of swagger to it, right? Like that was a confident play to not like try to do too much. Just be like, I'm just going to put it here and it's going to work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It reminded me of when PD was in his first couple of seasons. Remember those awesome shootout goals that he would have. And it was good. Yeah. You can tell he's playing with a lot of confidence. And even in his interviews too, he's actually smiling. He's actually joking. He's ribbing the reporters. So it was good to see.
I would have preferred he pulled a Forsberg because that would have been cooler.
Yeah. A little more risky, but I hear you.
I liked it. Lankinen stopped Anderson, DeBrusque got stopped, and then Huberdeau had to score, and he did, which was unfortunate. Suter got stopped, Sharon Govich got stopped, and then Garland to win it. Garland didn't even stick handle on this play. Like he skated in and he just held it on his stick, and he just skated in and just shot it. Kind of weird because you don't really get the goalie moving at all, but maybe he doesn't really have anything to move to or react to. Maybe it just sort of freezes him in a weird way. I don't know the logic behind it, but
they had a staring contest. An 8-foot staring contest. That's basically what they did.
And Garland won it.
Yeah,
a huge win that the Canucks absolutely needed. Because if they lose that game, especially if they lose that game in regulation, they're at 71 points now, and the Flames are at 72, and the Flames have a game in hand here, right? Like it really looks bad at that point.
Mm-hmm. So awesome. That was the night after our third Tuesday show, and we're feeling good. And that was that weird 1-game road trip in the middle, back to back too, right? Yeah.
At least it's Calgary, but like they flew there Tuesday night, right? Like it was a pretty quick turnaround. So the Canucks get 2 nights off, Thursday, Friday, come back home, and they get the Chicago Blackhawks, and they put in Shilovs for this one, and Shilovs had a busy night, faced 19 shots, and you would think, oh, you only allowed 19 shots, you must have run away with it. And you look at the scoreboard, and you're like, oh, they did run away with it. The Canucks only had 15 shots in this game. They went right back. They had more shots in the third period against Calgary than they had in this entire hockey game against Chicago.
That's funny.
Which is concerning. Right. But they lit it up. I mean, they actually scored 7, right? Because Pettersson scored and then it went in, and then Höglander scored right after on the rebound. Not the night for Soderblom. Just, 6 against on 15 shots is tough. I mean,
first 2 goals were exactly the same. It was a defenseman coming down the left side and putting it past his glove.
And then Tyler Myers doing the exact same thing, which is great. Tyler Myers he's been sweet lately. Like I think he's just playing with confidence, and he's not afraid to just go for a skate with the puck and let it rip. He's got a decent shot.
Yep.
So he had 2 goals and was at 35 seconds to start this game.
Yep. It is. Yeah. And it's funny. I tweeted out the book on Soderblom is Shoot the Puck on Net. Yes, that was the book. That was his county report.
That's tough. That's tough. Well, I mean, the book on Shelov's has been Shoot the Puck on Net from far away.
That's true.
A slight qualifier. Garland got one halfway through the second. This is a sick goal. Hoglander plays it to Garland, little give and go with Suter as he just cuts right through, goes to the backhand. Like the reaction time on this is awesome. 17 on the year for Garland, who I think is, he's really the heartbeat of this team at this point.
Beautiful give and go. And the fact that he kind of batted it out of the air and then didn't even let it settle and just put it back up. Yeah, it was great. It was great.
Vlasic got one back with a minute to go in the second. I don't really remember this one. Was it just a shot from the blue line?
From distance, I believe.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
I think this one, but I think Shelov's to his defense didn't he have Tyler Myers right in front of him?
Let me look. Tyler Myers is right in front of him.
Yeah.
And he has to do a huge peek to the right, and the shot goes to his left. So Myers has to clear that lane.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I agree.
Third period, we get the double goal. Nice little play here. Pettersson just takes the puck in the middle of the ice. A little toe drag. Great pass from Hoglander. Pettersson's between 3 guys. If he didn't bobble this puck, he could have shot it even faster. But he does bobble it, collects it, pulls the just sweet toe drag, finds a little space, rips it, post and back bar. Him and Hoglander knew it was in, or him and who's that? Is that O'Connor out there? No, it's him and DeBrusque. Him and DeBrusque knew it was in. A couple of the fans knew it was in. And then Hoglander just says, whatever, I'll just do it again and fires it through, which is great. I mean, that's gotta really hurt the goalie's confidence.
It was so fun. You're right, Parker. The way the puck bounces out, it bounces out to Hoglander, and he takes the exact same line that Petey does.
Yeah.
Except he puts it on the other corner. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like the first 2 goals in the game where they were exact replicas 35 seconds apart. These ones were like 6 seconds apart. But yeah, it was fantastic. We did give them one up a minute later, just to really hurt our own momentum as per usual. What was this one? Kaiser just sort of skated on the left wing and shot.
Yeah. It maybe hit Rona's stick, maybe not, but I think she does have to have that one, I think.
Yeah, fair enough. And then I don't know where this came from. But one of the sweetest goals from essentially the 4th line. Yeah. You've got Bluger chasing the puck down low. He does a little pivot once he gets behind the net and plays it in front. Really nice pass. This is always a shot, right? Like you get the puck here, you have to shoot it. Sure. And instead, he goes behind the back to the wide open wing to Niels Oman, which is crazy. Like it doesn't even, I still don't know if it's obviously the right move because he's wide open, but how do you know you're going to get it through 46's skates there? Like it's a sweet pass. Oman's never going to miss that. No one's ever going to miss that. Just like out of everyone you'd expect to see that from, it's Bluger to Sherwood to Oman, which is just awesome.
And it's even funnier because Sherwood, I always say, I like him a lot, the half Japanese thing, all that thing, but Sherwood doesn't pass a lot. I always can picture him rushing over the blue line and really not passing. He just shoots. And sometimes he's got a good shot, sometimes not really, but he always shoots. So he actually gets the pass from Bluger on his forehand. And you're right. Usually that's a quick a shot attempt. He had a good angle, but he goes behind, backwards. And I think he lifts his only right leg up to get it through. It's crazy. It was so nice.
It really reminds you like, hey, the guys who are playing on the 4th line in the NHL were like, they've been the best players on their team their whole lives, right? Like they're the skilled guys. And then seconds later, Canucks come in on a little 3-on-4, 3-on-3 kind of. Joshua plays it across to Garland, who got open. And then he also decides from a grade A scoring position, I'm going to go across the grain to Suter, who has a wide open net. Like just 2 outstanding passing plays 8 seconds apart from the 4th line and then the 3rd line.
So we scored 8 seconds apart. Then we scored 6 seconds apart. That didn't count. That's a good quick strike offense. But you're right. Beautiful goals from our two. Yeah. Well, not our top line. We'll put it that way. But really good unselfish plays. Yep, it was good.
So technically 3 goals on 5 shots in the third, but actually 4 goals on 6 shots. Which it's a tough night for their goalie.
Yes. I don't know much about his. Well, he's obviously decent. He's in the NHL, but battle of the backups. Yeah.
They didn't have. I assumed it would be Spencer Knight going into that game, and I was like, oh, that's going to be a bit of trouble. I mean, Soderblom's a 25-year-old goalie. He's got a 901 this year, and that's after allowing 6 goals on 15 shots. A week earlier, he allowed 3 on 44, or 3 on 41 against Nashville. So he's been having an okay season for just his second year in the league.
Okay. Oh, okay. He's that young. That's fine then. That's fine.
It's also tough to have your career save percentage of 890, which isn't it's not great, but it's not terrible. But your record is 15, 50, and 11. That's what happens when you played when you're Chicago's number 2. I mean, last year 5, 22, and 2. Which is
I presume you were watching this, Parker. I think you're at the arena or you're at home for this one?
I was at home.
Okay, I don't know what I was in the arena. I don't know what it looked like. Chicago's bad. Like they turn it over so much. They're really bad. Bedard's having a horrible. I want him to do well, but he's having a bad season. They're just a bad team.
Yeah. All right, Utah.
Just before, but then the game was marred by the hit at the end of the game.
Right. Yeah. Yes. Jason Dickinson, who didn't do anything for the Canucks when he played here, and I think he had a questionable play the previous game. If I heard right, I don't know. I think he was a late slash behind the play because they were losing or something. He's not taking losing well. And decided to take it out on Filip Chytil with a high hit, a guy with extensive concussion history, who missed almost an entire season because of it. And now he's back in protocol, which, and you really saw it yesterday, right? You see that lack of speed that he brings to the table, and it makes a huge difference.
Yeah. For a second, I forgot about his concussion history. I just said, who is that? Oh, dang, that's Chytil. And then to see him stand up and then fall down because he's wobbling, that is not good.
Yeah. And he was mad going to the tunnel.
Yes.
And fair enough. Yeah. It sucks. Yeah.
Yeah. You hear what Sherwood said about Dickinson?
Yeah. That was
yesterday.
Yeah, it was great. Especially for it to be after last night's game and for him to still be no, I'll still talk about this. He basically just said, he said, yeah, we don't play him again, but we'll see him next year or something along those lines, which, hopefully he plays and they can, they'll dish. The fact that there's no discipline on that's kind of crazy to me because it's a high hit in a 6-2 game. It's Bush League.
It's too bad. And I guess we'll talk about it as we talk about how deficient the Canucks looked last night in terms of their speed, as you mentioned.
Yeah, and I mean, really, the story that the season might come down to, based on who gets that last playoff spot, 0-3 against Utah this year.
Oh.
Right? We have never beat Utah. Quinn Hughes, another goal on the power play, shot from the point. He's so good at that shot, apparently, where he just takes a wrister that doesn't look that hard from 70 feet away, and it goes in every time.
Yes. Sergachev actually pushed this one in past his goalie. I'm not sure what he was doing. Well,
I know he probably knew he would do that because he's that good.
Fair.
So that's great. He's really trying to put his team on his back, which worries me because it's another night in which he played 30 minutes coming off of an injury that we don't know that he's fully back from yet. And I'm skipping ahead a little bit here, but no one on the Canucks had more than 2 shots except Quinn Hughes, who had 5. He is single-handedly trying to get this team into the playoffs. And it's just not working. So I don't think I saw any of Utah's goals except the empty netter. So you want to run us through these two?
Yeah, the Stenlin one, I'm just trying to picture. Oh, yeah. Both of Utah's goals were side-to-side goals that Lankinen had no chance. So the first one for Utah, just watching the goal visualizer now. Oh, this is the one where actually Hronik Hughes chased a guy to the point. Hronek chased his guy behind the net, so that left the left side where Hughes is supposed to be completely wide open, and that's where Stenlund went. Puck went through Pettersson. It's not really his fault though, so Stenlund buries that one. And the other one was a really nice play by Utah where they had wasn't really a centering pass. It was a shot from Dursey from the point, and actually bounced off one, if not two guys. Yeah, unfortunately, it wasn't even a Lankinen rebound. It was off a couple guys and to an open spot, and it was set up by a reverse hit on Marcus Pettersson, which I didn't like. The hit was fine. Our PD does it all the time, but I didn't like how Pettersson got floored by it, and then everyone else was out of position because of it.
Yeah, I'm watching the highlight. That's a sick play by Cooley.
Yeah,
like to just turn on the jets and get to that puck and
that spot,
contort himself to get that on net. That's they got Utah's got some skill. They got some really good young skill, right? I mean, you look at the guys who scored, like, Cooley and obviously Keller got the empty netter, and Stellan's a bit more of a vet, but they've got some young weapons.
Sure. And then really quickly, we'll talk about the empty netter, and then we'll go back to the power play. So then they seal it. Hronek makes a poor pass along the boards. Maybe it's too little, too late, anyways. And then Schmaltz over to Keller, easy goal. But everyone's gonna be talking about Parker. If not to be over dramatic, but if the Canucks don't make the playoffs, I think we can point to this 4-minute power play. They were given a gift with 8 minutes to go. Clayton Keller's stick got up on Besser accidentally, but it did.
Cut him in the mouth, right?
Yep. And they couldn't even get out of their zone, let alone over the other blue line. They couldn't get past their own blue line. It was so bad, man. It was so bad.
Yeah. Is Utah's, like, I'm just thinking, is their penalty kill any good normally?
I'm not sure.
Like I know, and I'm completely ignorant to it, but I'm looking at how their team is built. I would assume that they wouldn't be very good on the penalty kill, right? Because they got a lot of young, skilled guys, right?
Sure.
That's sort of what their team's based on. And they're 13th in the league. They're 80%.
Okay.
So, it's worse than ours, but only by 2 points.
There's one point, Parker, where the first unit took the first minute and a half or so, and then the second unit comes out, and it's Myers and Hronek. So I don't know if it's because Rick Tocchet really likes the way those guys are playing. I'm not sure if you forgot that it was a double minor, but you had two defensemen out there with 3 forwards, and then of course the first unit took over the last minute or so. But hardly any good chances, which was unfortunate. Yeah,
and I mean that just put 5 forwards out there. Like, do something. Yeah. So it's a tough one. Like, that's again they find a way to win that game, right? And suddenly the story is so much different. It's a 2-point lead over St. Louis with a game in hand. It's 6 points over Utah, right? Because they'd be at 75-69. Yeah, it would be a 6-point gap over Utah. It's a 4-point game that they just didn't pull out.
It's just as excited as we were for taking Calgary, even though they got 1 point, we got to be as equally disappointed to lose this one. Yeah, it's and we're not gonna. It's not gonna cut it, right? If you're setting the playoff bar at 92 or 93, people say you got to go. If they got to go 4 games over 500, do you see this team going 9-5-1 or 8-4-3? Do you see that happening? That's what's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, 8-4-3 sounds actually pretty doable. That seems okay. I mean, 9-5-1. And again, like, looking at who has the easy schedule? Do we say St. Louis?
Yeah.
Looking at St. Louis's schedule, I'd be like, 9-5-1. We can do that. Looking at this schedule, like the Jets twice, man. Like, and Vegas twice.
And Dallas and Colorado.
And Colorado.
So maybe 6 losses there.
And then you got to win the rest.
Yeah.
That's it's going to be an uphill battle. So looking at the points on Money Puck, they project we'd finish with 89 as it currently stands.
Yeah.
St. Louis would finish with 89.6. Utah at 88.7. That doesn't mean the playoff bar is at 90. That means the average of the bell curves are all around 89, but one team will do better than that, most likely, unless every team collapses. So that playoff bar probably is 92, because if you put 4 teams into the ringer and you say, hey, which of these teams can one of these teams go 9-5-1? Probably, that's one team will probably do it. And hopefully it's ours, but it's, like we said before, it's a 4-sided die.
You're right. 8-4-3 is only one more allowable loss than 9-5-1. But it does sound a lot better now that you're talking about seven losses to 8 wins outright versus 9-6. Yeah. I don't know. Like I like math. I like the probabilities, but there's only so much consternation and worrying you can do. You got to watch the team play, and then we got to see how they do, and then at the end of the night you figure out if they're 2 points closer to a playoff spot. That's really the easiest way to do it.
Yeah. So Canucks at 30% odds.
Okay.
I'm gonna type in random number between 1 and 100.
Okay.
Pick a range. Pick 30 points.
Okay. I will take 14 to 43. 14 to 43.
Canucks made the playoffs. It's a 20.
Okay, let me do one more. That was fun. Let me do one more. 49 to 78.
91. Didn't make it.
Oh, okay. 1-1. Okay, last one. Don't worry, we won't do this all show. Last one. Wow, let's just do it. 71 to 100.
60.
I suck at this.
Well, that's the game we're playing, right? 1 in 3, basically. That's the Canucks odds to make it. So it's out of our hands. Yeah, I don't. And the thing is, I don't usually love Money Pucks odds because I think it weights the current season pretty heavily over like the Athletic, which uses a little bit more history. But I think the way the Canucks have played this season, I think using this season to weight is pretty reasonable. Because it has been a bit of an outlier.
What other models do people use? Sorry, between Athletic, Money Puck, what other models do people use?
The other good way to do it, as much as I don't like how everything's trending towards gambling, sports books usually are pretty accurate, right?
Right. Living. Yeah, true.
So if I look at something like FanDuel's odds to make the playoffs, and we look at the Canucks, FanDuel has the Canucks with the best odds out of these teams.
I like FanDuel.
Canucks are a plus 158.
Yeah.
Implied. Let me just do a quick conversion here. That's plus 158. So that is 39% chance is the implied odds of that. They have St. Louis at plus 220, which is 31%. Yeah. They have Utah at plus 360. Which is 22%, and they have Calgary at plus 370, so about the same. Okay. So they have it more as a 2-horse race between Vancouver and St. Louis, taking about 70% of the odds, and then Utah and Calgary at the rest.
So it was Money Puck.
And keep in mind, they're pricing, like when they have the Canucks at 39%, they're also pricing in their profit, so it's probably closer to 43, 44 in their eyes. Because if you add all the numbers up together, it doesn't look like it doesn't add up to 100, right? Because they want their money on top.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I like it. 1043. I was gonna say, do you care about the Ovechkin chase?
It's getting a little late. I think he's gonna run out of time.
Yeah. Well, and I'll be the first to say, not because I've been proven right. I almost got proven wrong at the start of the season. It's not because I don't like Ovechkin. I just didn't think he had the season in him. So I said, there is no way. I was telling people he'll have to play the first third of next season, but it's going to be close. Yeah, he might not do it, but it'll be way closer than I thought. It's
so funny because I had the same thought. I'm like, oh, he's not going to score like 42 goals this year. Yeah, he scored 34 in 51 games. So dumb.
Wait, he missed 20 games?
Yeah, he broke his leg, didn't he?
Well, I know we're giggling. No, that's so impressive.
It's crazy. It's like one of his best seasons ever. Yeah, like in a goals per game rate, and he's 39 years old.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, it's silly. Unbelievable. So yeah, 4 games for us to preview because the Canucks play tomorrow, Thursday, Saturday, and then Monday at 4:30. So our show next Monday will be a late post game, I guess. I like it. Considering the game's at 4:30. Starts tomorrow against Winnipeg at home. Winnipeg, as you know, top team in the league right now. They have won their last 3. They snuck by the Kraken in OT yesterday. So they've been in town, I imagine, since last night. Maybe they stayed the night in Seattle. It's a short trip up. But I mean, what can we say? It's Hellebuck has been outstanding this year. The Jets are a problem and are probably huge favorites to win tomorrow.
Yeah, and someone told me did Connery get hurt on Saturday night?
Oh, I don't know.
Or Sunday night. But yeah, if we see a Hellebuck, it's gonna be tough because we don't have the most. We can't play Chicago every night, so I think Hellebuck's a little bit better than Soderblom. So
yeah,
it's gonna be tough.
Yeah, so that one's probably not going to be great. I mean, that's the thing though. The Canucks win that game, and suddenly we're like, "Oh, this team can beat anybody," and we're back.
Yeah, first round playoff preview right there.
Yeah, well, then we know. Then they better hope we miss the playoffs. Right?
Oh, that's funny.
So the Canucks play every other night this week, which is great. That's always my preference. The back-to-backs suck. The 2 days off sucks.
Yeah.
So every other night's great. Thursday. So that game's at 7:00 home game, and then they embark on this 6-game road trip to basically finish off the year almost. St. Louis on Thursday.
Oh, massive.
If you thought that Calgary game was important last week, this one is now just as important.
Yeah.
That is appointment viewing Thursday night, 4:30, 2 teams battling for that playoff spot. That game's probably a 15% swing in playoff odds. Wow. I'd have to think at this point. That Calgary game was 10 on either side. I think it was, if the Canucks win in regulation, they were at like 30%. And if they lost in regulation, it was like 10. This game will be the same. It'll be, if the Canucks win in regulation, they'll probably be like 45%. And if they lose, they'll probably be down to like 15. Right. So right now, that's the biggest game from here on out.
Can I preview the Saturday one?
Sure can.
Awesome. You called Thursday appointment viewing. How about the return or the match against JT Miller and I screwed up. I should have said Carson Soucy first. Soucy might not even play. So JT Miller,
healthy scratch Carson Soucy.
Carson Soucy on Saturday. Yeah, because with Adam Fox back, apparently I heard on the radio that New York fans are already turning on Carson Soucy just 2 weeks into his plight there. So we generally, I remember we have good success. Maybe I'm just thinking of game number 8 against Boston back in January of 2012. I know you were just a kid back then, but that was a big Sunday morning game at 10 a.m. because it's 1 p.m. Boston time. So maybe we're good at these early ones. I don't know, but that'll be fun to watch if we can all remember to get up on time, or if you're up already, just make sure that you remember the games at 10 a.m. on Saturday.
Yeah, who's going to be our Cody Hodgson on Saturday morning?
Very good. Good, Paul. Very good. Very good.
Yeah, so the Rangers, that's an interesting one because the Rangers, they're hanging on to a playoff spot, right? Like they need to win that game, right? Yeah. Like they're looking at that as a must win. So do they keep Soucy out of the lineup because it gives them the best chance to win, or do they put him in against his former team because that usually gives guys a bump? We'll see. We'll see if Soucy plays in that one. Of course, it'll be Miller versus Pettersson, which it'll be a fun one. It sucks that it's at 10 a.m. Because that would be a great Hockey Night in Canada finisher. But I imagine, I imagine just a full slate of games all day on Saturday.
Oh yeah, it's got to be the last 3 Saturdays of the season must be nuts. Yeah,
because there's no football or anything on anymore, so they just rack it up. So that'll be great. And then Monday, March 24th at 4:30 in New Jersey against the Devils. Would have been a Hughes Bowl, but there will only be 2 Hugheses, I imagine, in that game.
That means we're going to win then, because we never win.
It does help. Look, it sucks for Jack, but it does help. But again, like the Devils are actually in a playoff spot. Like they're doing fine, and they're going to make the playoffs. But a big blow to them, obviously, and they've been sort of coasting ever since. So it's I would say 3 games against teams that are pretty well equal to the Canucks right now, and 1 game against the Winnipeg Jets over this next week.
So how does 2-1-1 sound?
It sounds right. Which, I would love 3-1. I would love 3-0-1. But I think the Canucks are probably going to get off to a tough start tomorrow against the Jets, and then have to claw. Like that game against the Blues is really going to be do or die at that point.
Right. So remember our 8-4-3, because we like that better than 9-5-1. So if we go 8-4-3 and we go 2-1-1, then can we go 6-3-2? then after these 4, we have to go 6-3-2.
It sounds doable. You get the Blue Jackets and the Kraken and the Islanders and the Ducks.
Yeah.
That next week is a much nicer schedule. The Jets are in there again, by the way.
Yeah.
But then it's Golden Knights, Stars, Avs, Wild, San Jose, Vegas, and then the season's over. Okay. So it would be nice to get some wins out of the way.
Yeah, you're right.
But it's not the best schedule for it.
You make such a good point. I heard you said Jets, 2 Vegas, 1 Minnesota, 1 Dallas, and 1 Colorado. So hopefully the Canucks don't lose all 6, but let's say they lose those 6. That means it's almost essential that they don't lose more than 1 in this coming up to it. Yeah, that's a great point.
Oh. It's going to be tight.
Okay.
But they could do it.
Yeah. Maybe they sweep those 6 good teams.
Yeah, it's this team's weird sometimes. Watch, they're gonna win. They're gonna win 6 of the next 7 games, and the loss will be to Columbus.
Oh, Monday's gonna be a fun show because it's post game. Those are always a lot of fun.
Or it's gonna be a really sad show.
Yeah, Death March, right? Started the Death March.
Could be. Make sure you're subscribed with notifications turned on for that, and hopefully it's a fun Monday show next week.
You got it. All right, before we go to the people, so we've recapped, we've previewed, we've talked about Chytil, talked about Ovechkin and Gretzky. Anything else that last thing, you heard anything from the GM meetings? They're talking about what's this about 84 games versus 82? That maybe I've been living under a rock. That came out of nowhere for me. Has that been on the table for a while?
Yeah, it's been floated for a bit.
Okay.
It makes the math with 32 teams work a lot better.
Right.
Because you take 30 games playing every team, or I guess 62 games playing every team, and then it leaves 22 games in your conference for extra or something like that. It just, apparently the numbers just work better. I don't remember the exact math because a lot of numbers to fly around my head. But apparently the math works better. And look, if you make if you make preseason like 3 games, then you might be able to get the players to sign off on it. But it's an interesting one because, like, I love watching hockey every other night. It's great. But like, that's a lot. It's already a lot, right? Like, if the season was 66 games, I think it'd be like, yeah, that sounds about right. But it's just always been 82 or 84. So it just feels, it's a little long.
Actually, you said it right. I was just while you were talking about that, you're right. You play against the other conference twice, home and home. So there's 32. Add these up, please. 32. Then you play against your own division 3 times, 7 times 3. So what's 32 and 31?
21.
21.
Right. So that's 53.
Right. And then you play against the other division. Oh no, I screwed up. Sorry, you play against your own division 4 times. So what's 4 times 7? 28. So what's 28 plus 32? That's 60, right?
60. And then you play 24 games left.
You got it.
Yeah.
So 4 against your division, 3 against your conference, 2 against your other conference. There you go.
Yeah.
Good point. Yeah.
So the numbers work better. But it's, you got to sell it to the players. Look, that's fine. Just make it so it starts earlier and ends earlier. We don't need the playoffs in June. Why can't we just start in September, wrap up in the middle of May, and then it's golf season?
Yep. I hear you. All right. Hopefully we're not talking about golf season for the Canucks next week. I don't think so. I think it will delay it by at least a week.
We need the rain to go away first.
Go to the people for the last 7 minutes or so.
Let's do it.
All right, Peter, guns a blazing. How much of Rick Tocchet is holding this team back, or do you guys blame management for not making a better forward group?
I blame a few of the players more than Rick Tocchet right now. A couple of the players that aren't here anymore, primarily JT Miller, is, just especially just looking at how well he's been playing in New York, right? And be like, hey, well, why didn't you do that here this year? And part of that might be Rick Tocchet. But Rick Tocchet was here last year, and JT Miller was very good. So it's tough. However, this Canucks team is like 31st in shots. Actually, can I get the exact number? I have shots per game right here. Shots per game. Scroll to the bottom. The Canucks are averaging 25.4 shots per game, which is 1 shot per game more than the last team, Chicago. Now, on the bright side, the Canucks also are allowing the 7th fewest shots per game.
Okay.
So really the discrepancy is only 1. It's 26.7 against 25.44.
Right.
So it's a slight negative, but it's not terrible. But it does feel like the offense is being limited on some players that need it to not be limited. Like, Pettersson, and he's obviously playing a little bit better now, but when you have 5 shots coming from Quinn Hughes and 1 or 2 coming from everyone else, part of that system, part of that's production, part of that's performance.
Yeah.
I don't really have much of an issue with what management did, because we came into this season thinking that they did a pretty good job. And, you look at the guys they brought in, and I still don't think that they were, there was a couple iffy ones, but they cleaned those up, right? Like Desharnais, Susie, they moved on from, they brought in Forbert, who has been fine. I really don't think that, I would lean coaching more than management at this moment.
Okay. And related to this question, no one asked it outright, but a lot of discussion about Besser. Like I noticed both games, he was invisible. Like yesterday, completely invisible. And there's been so much. He had the concussion from the hit from Tanner Jeannot. He had Patrick Allvin saying, if you guys knew what kind of offers I'd get, you'd have to run out, chase me out the door, whatever he said. Not the best thing to say, 1 hour past trade deadline. So the contract discussion, all these things. Are we simply seeing a rapid decline, or is there GMs across the league, Parker, that are going to say, hey, man, I just got to get my hands on him, get him in our organization. We're going to fix him.
Yeah, I just look at it and I'm just, it sucks for him, but I'm thankful that he didn't take that 8x5, right? Yeah. Because he's not playing like a $5 million player right now. There's no chance generation. There's no foot speed. There's really nothing. And it's tough to watch, but if we had Besser from last season, and part of it is, not having JT Miller, sure. He worked really well with JT Miller, but at some point, if you're going to be an $8 million player, you got to do some creation of your own. Right. Yeah. And we're just not seeing it.
And hey, Witten and Jordan, Canucks Ancestor, nice to see you guys. What would you guys do to get Besser going? He's basically played with everyone, as they've commented. And he even said, when he was talking about the loss of JT Miller, and he said with JT, he's such a good passer, which you and I have talked about many times on the show, that Besser just had to get to that soft spot, right, at the dots and just go. And there's no one that can do it. And that's further highlighted because Chytil's going to be out for a little bit now, hopefully not too long. So if you're not going to play PD with Besser, there's really no one else that's a good playmaker. Like Suter, Bluger, great guy, like hardworking guys, but they're not playmakers.
Yeah. And that's the thing, right? That's what we talked about last year is that Besser he's not a speed guy, and he's not really a creator, but he's a smart player that knows his strengths and knows how to find the soft spot and just get lost in the defense and get found by JT Miller, right? And score. But yeah, when you're that dependent on another player like that, that gets really tough if that player's gone. And yeah, he hasn't worked with Pettersson. We've tried it for years. So we, that's at some point, that's partially on him as well. And yeah, with Chytil gone, our like you said, our centers are Suter and Bluger and Oman maybe. Like it's pretty bleak down the middle. And yeah, Suter's a really good player, and he can create a little bit, but he's not JT Miller, right? When it comes to that chance creation.
Right.
So it's tough.
And as much as I love Chytil's speed, and I do love his speed, he kind of erratic, right? We talked about this last week. He gets over the line and you have no clue where the puck's going to go because he's not the best playmaker. But I do think you need guys who are fast with Besser. I don't call O'Connor a top 6, but I would put Yeah, I think they tried this too for a while. You had Chytil, O'Connor with Besser. Then you can go now. You can go Hoglander and DeBrusque with Petey. This is when Chytil was healthy, and then you can have your Garland, Joshua, Suter, and then Bluger, Sherwood, and whoever Amon. And that's not bad, right? But with no Chytil, and you're right. They've tried the Petey and Besser. They've gone back to it a few times, and it simply doesn't work for whatever reason. Maybe there's not enough speed. Maybe there's no one winning puck battles. I don't know. It's not like Besser's bad at winning puck battles, but Miller did so much of controlling, driving that line, and Besser reaped the rewards, and good for him.
Yeah, and JT Miller was also a great distraction.
Yeah.
Right? Like there's like you've got to know where he is on the ice. If Besser's out there with Pew Suter, you can lean towards Besser a little bit more.
Yeah.
On defense.
Yep. Good point. All right, we got 2 more minutes. Fire. We'll go rapid fire. There's a lot of great discussion. No one's asking us questions, which is great because everyone's answering each other's questions in the chat, which is awesome. We love to see the interaction, but we got a couple more minutes if anyone wants to throw something in. Everyone's talking about
We'll scroll up a little bit. People talking about tiebreakers, and that apparently St. Louis is the tiebreakers. That's great.
We got to win outright. Yeah.
Yeah, it's that game. That game on Thursday is crazy important. I don't love that it's at 4:30. A 6 o'clock would have been nice, but
don't you work from home though? Easy for you.
Yeah, but it's not about that. When it's a big game, I want it to be getting dark. I want to have dinner before, and I want to settle in, and that's the rest of my night. 4:30. If they lose, what am I going to do all night? It's going to be sad.
Okay, last 2. Edmund says, how concerned are you about Chytil's injury, and does Aatu Räty get a shot by the end of the season?
Yeah, very concerned. Concussions are one of those things that usually compile, which is obviously not good. And Tocchet said it's minor and he's going through protocol. So was Demko's injury. So I don't know how much to lean on that. Will they call up Räty? I don't really know what the AHL depth chart's looking like right now. Does that sound?
It's good. It's fine. They're doing fine. Yeah.
Does that sound like the move they'd make in your opinion? You run 11-7.
No, I got to think about that one. I think they want to give Lekarmak, like if they like the way Niels Aman's playing, then you really don't need to bring Räty in just yet. I think, what does he add? Lastly, Peter says, is Horvat missed? When Miller was here, I was going to say no. Now that Horvat and Miller are gone, I say yes.
Yeah. For the needs that this team had when they moved on from Bo Horvat, no. However, Filip Hronek has been very, very important this year, right? When Hughes was gone for a while, Hronek stepped in really well, and has probably been more useful than Horvat would have been this year. And, Horvat's been fine. He's got 21 goals. He's been okay. But, he's not the player he was when he was on that, 45, 50 goal pace in 2022, 2023. But that would be a useful player, but you might is also making $8.5 million for 6 more years.
Well, and I was going to say, speaking of him, we didn't even mention him, but that's because we have one more show before the Canucks take on the Islanders. So we can mention him all day, all night on next week's show.
Sounds good.
All right, 2-1-1. Let's do it.
Maybe more, please. All right, folks. If you enjoy the show, make sure you hit like, hit subscribe, do all that good stuff. If you missed any part, you can rewind here on YouTube, or you can find it on your favorite podcast platform. Just search Canucks After Dark. Clay, any parting words this Monday night?
No, we've set it up well. Tomorrow's going to be very tough, but imagine what a win will do for their confidence. Strike fear into our potential first-round playoff opponent. And then, you're right. All eyes on St. Louis because of the playoff implications. Then all eyes on the Rangers because we get to see JT Miller, maybe Carson Soucy. And if anyone's not sick of Canucks talk, I'll be doing a quick half-an-hour show in 50 minutes or so. So you can come by if you want.
Excellent. All right, folks. Thank you all for joining. Have a good night, and we will see you next week.